Love that opportunity. So generally, what virtue we are engaging in, whatever virtuous activity we are going to do, it is always important that we make sure we are imbued with what are called the three purities, or the three excellent purities.
그런 말은 그때 그거한테 두기 상관없게 진짜 상충적으로 섬지야 돼 임발했어.
The first is known as virtue in the beginning, which constitutes the pure motivation, the motivation of bodhicitta. And so whatever virtuous practice we are engaging in, whether it is listening to teachings or contemplating their meaning or meditating, at all times, if we first give rise to the motivation of bodhicitta that feels, I shall be engaging in this virtue, in this practice, for the sake of all sentient beings to attain the state of perfect awakening, the state of complete and total Buddhahood. For that purpose, I am listening to these teachings, or I am engaging in this virtue. That is known as virtue in the beginning, with giving rise to the motivation of bodhicitta.
남주인지 가동 대주 사고라서 밖에 너나 내가 강 들어가 있네요. 아니 이제 가행 뭐행 마성바 아니 림아 아니 예수 지지 거 그거네. 근데 아니 겨우 그때는 내도가 어떻게 무시를 가네 그게 좀 차게요.
맞아요. So in the middle, virtue in the middle, the second of these three purities or three excellences, is often termed as the actual how to frame one's mind during the main body of the practice. And really, ideally, the best scenario is if we are able to be in a state of the view, the profound view of emptiness. And so whatever we do, that we are doing so in a state of being kind of sealed with emptiness awareness. But if that's difficult for us at this time, the most important thing, like whatever practice we are engaging in, the process of listening to teachings and so forth, or even just generally, like when we are doing mantras or practice, even doing like prostrations or circumambulations and whatnot, the important point of this is that we are in a state where our minds are actually present for the practice. That our mouths are not running off, our eyes are not wandering here and there distracted. But basically it means that our body, speech, and mind are fully there and fully present for the practice without distraction. So that's the essence of the meaning of purity in the middle with being beyond reference point, as it's called.
디탈나 뭐가 이말에 대는데다 나는 저 겨워서 강 들어가 있네요. 대 생진 인동도 치다. 아니 대 조장도 치다. 뭐 만나서야 돼. 하지가 그게 참
이말에. And then the third of these three purities is what causes all the roots of virtue that we are accumulating to continue to grow and increase. And this is known as the dedication of merit or virtue at the end. And basically, when we feel our roots of virtue, whatever virtuous activity we are engaging in, by dedicating them toward the proper aim, to the proper end, that is for the sake of all sentient beings, and for the sake of perfect enlightenment for all beings, then we are fully feeling all of these roots of virtue with the pure dedication. So that is known as the purity at the end, or in the conclusion with the dedication.
추상권 수험생한다. 다가나 인기 딱 가동 대주 사고라. 너는 개와 가리지 들어봐 이마이네요. 근데 드럼지에 대해서다. 드럼바지 잡아야 돼. 가때 대수 뭐 차진 수모데 상황이 이마이나. 당한 저 개와 가래지 들어봐 임바이네요. 개와 양다고 취 양다고 취취에도 들어지 당. 가데네 뒤 차긴 숨보다 마찬가지 임바이나. 당한 저 개와 아니 사보 만 사보에 봤다. 두수 몽보 땅와다. 자체모 들어봐 임바이네요. 아니 때 개와 넘버 따와다. 아니 취 소리는 들어와다. 니가 매바이 말에. 근데 임바인데 다 됐어 못했다. 남제 다 남아 저기 근데 공무에 요리나 아니 파전 양이 하나 요리 요소리 때는데 다 나서 하전 그 기치 뭐 말에. 됐어 못해 시고야 지다. 얘는 또 남난 거야 지다. 아니 남제는 나서 그 양내는 절거야 돼. 하전 그 기치 뭐
말에. So basically, having these three purities intact, the purity that precedes whatever virtuous practice we are doing, meaning giving rise to the bodhicitta motivation, the pure motivation at the beginning, at the outset, and then the purity that is during the whole main practice itself, which is known as being beyond point of reference, purity in the middle. And then finally, dedicating the roots of virtue at the end, so purity at the conclusion, virtue at the end. Having these three purities intact is something that we really want to make sure we understand. So purity at the end is dedication, making aspiration prayers, and so forth. And so we really want to try and make sure that whatever virtuous practice we are doing, whether we are listening to teachings, contemplating, meditating, and similarly, even if we are just doing our recitations, our practices, or we are making prostrations or circumambulations, in short, any and all virtuous practice that we engage in, it's really the case that we must make sure never to be divorced from these three purities. Because if we have these three elements, these three purities intact, then whatever virtuous actions we engage in, that becomes authentic, pure virtue. Then it becomes pure Dharma, real Dharma, Dharma that is actually in accordance with Dharma. But if we are engaging in Dharma or virtue and we lack any of these three or these three elements, then even if the actual practice we are engaging in is something very profound and we are doing some kind of very magnanimous, virtuous action over a very long period of time and it's very vast, it doesn't matter because there's no guarantee that this virtue, this so-called virtue will genuinely be real, authentic virtue. There's no guarantee that our Dharma is actually according to or going in accordance with Dharma if we do not have these three purities. And so that's why at all times, of course, all of you, many of you are already practitioners and sure, and so it's something that is just so important for all of us to remember how crucial it is to make sure that all of our virtuous practice is imbued with these three qualities, these three purities. So that's something to always know and always remember in our practice and in our day-to-day life.
guru muti kare song ye sene chu juba le jan duptur zo song ye ta te sung de kare sene nan so ge dambu chu drubje le jan drubdang de ani chi druptur de ya wo chi chae de ge chen bu de ni song ye ta te kare cha ye sene ta nan so chi chu drubdang dang druptur de so ya wo ji ma shi ba se ne ya chu drub de ba yi na ti chu de ani去年的cha san yang de去的那这龙马的的没给我搞的cha你吧呀真的人家没到过那么几个呢去年马中呢去年那人生的基本上把就是什么
那么这好了的切着上这块的过程了却如果来讲如此多从多现在理解了那么这个本来就那了刚的本来是要不是了沟通
呀
我也拍到了。
다 됐는데 주저바 내가 주저서는데 나는 저기 다 거기도
야부 당기면도 가만히 좀 예파 제발 sorry it became completely unclear I have to call back. Hello?
Hello.
Or that's the way that it goes. The guru was the chip no like to so small. Digital yapoma.
어레레. 다들 대인데 만수 담보지 추 접어야 되잖아. 아니 추 접당다.
세부도
추가 내당에서 시야다 하긴 개침 모르겠어.
나더러 뭐지?
근데 가서 나눠서 대 마시베 이마이나. 근데 셴도기 추 접은도 추 접네야. 뒤추대 추 넘버 따고지 차서 요당 양은 이제 추대 추 많이 바지 차요 때 네바요 말이지.
맞다.
근데 근데 냠이 따고를 못 지겠네. 추추인데 맞아나. 추지 당내 손도 집어서 봐 그저서 있으니 드립 손을 열어. 근데 추근내 손을 치해요 말때 얘는 추 접당도 마시 봐 이마이나. 추 신절로도 차서 마 이마이나. 근데 나한테 이 gewa ke penyong le jang ni ti ni ba che wa tin ni yong si ba yin ba de tin ni ti ba yin de ne ga ta so nang so ke chin go ya ta ke chin go yin ba de
Mother. So what Guru Rinpoche said was that more important than the practice of Dharma is how you are practicing the Dharma, the way that you are practicing the Dharma. So more important than just like the Dharma practice itself is making sure that you really know how to properly practice that Dharma. So what this means is basically, are we really practicing the Dharma as it is supposed to be practiced? And do we really know the meaning, the nature of that Dharma we are practicing, and how to practice it, how to properly practice and accomplish that Dharma? Because if we are practicing Dharma, but we don't really have an understanding of how to properly practice it, then actually there is no guarantee that that Dharma we are practicing is really pure Dharma practice. And furthermore, there's no guarantee that what we are thinking is Dharma is not actually becoming something against the Dharma, something that is not really Dharma. So that's why the peerless Gampopa said that if we do not practice Dharma in accordance with Dharma, then even that Dharma practice can become yet another cause for falling to the lower realms. Now, this is not to say that Dharma itself will ever be able to lead us to the lower realms. What it means is if we are practicing Dharma incorrectly, if we are not practicing the Dharma as it is meant to be practiced, then we are practicing Dharma wrongly. And that wrong practice of Dharma could actually bring more harm than benefit. In fact, that's possible. And so that's why it's crucial that we really understand the key points, the crucial points on really how to actually practice Dharma.
주저야를 고람직 되는 성도 그때 투상 검som 시티는 성도 용답되 다 투상세야 다 보정으로 검세야 돼 냐니 다때 간제세는 고람도 되는 레비는 유시나 담보 많은 저 주도당도 시고 그러고 대인데 주를 보병도 그래 대 보병 때는 제 소소 보병세 성모다인데 투상 그때 시타로 그죠라 때 많은 저지 검년이 세야 되다 된데 용이 되는데 투상 검선 진는 되는이야 알레데 바지 되는지 차이래 다 나는 저 담비 추자 말이 이제 사와이 많이 대가랑제도 그래서 뭐라지 동거는 담보 뭐라데 로병 거도 뭐라데 야고지 로병 맞아서 뭐라 땅에 이메나 다 세세 가고 컨트롤하고 뭐도 다가는 칼라게 zu바이 되는지도 칼라데 땅에 야고지 조 시스마이 많이 칼라드는 칼라 심보 차야 칼라 조보로 펜바 차야 되는도 양 칼라 조 마시면 이마이나 양 칼라 심보 매바 칼라 그 조보 나타 동에 되는 몸을 네 취인은 이제 띵의 사와이나 아니 담보고 대 야고지 하고 시차와 이마이나 빼내다고 작은도 사와 가지고 있네 그 가서 뭐 맞추겠어요 하 마보겠어요 되는 거 좋지 뭐 이제 매번 제목 깔을 뭐 이제 내가 있네 아 소진은 양 년가요 되게 소진의 양 깔레들 존재 중중 존재 시불 맞던 거 되네 이거는 되는 게 이제 추게 되는 다랑이 진리의 이미지 근데 내가 더 항상 이제 친구에 그렇게 모르죠.
That's why Lord Buddha gave us a sequence and sort of like an order, a structure for how we practice the Dharma. That's why we talk about the 3 stages of listening, contemplating, and meditating. So we always talk about listening to teaching, contemplating their meaning. Listening and contemplation basically means studying, learning the Dharma, studying the Dharma. And meditation means actually practicing that. And so that's why, for example, like, first we study because we need to know how to properly practice the Dharma. What is the way to practice? And so we learn, we listen to teachings, and we reflect and contemplate on their meaning. And so that's all the process of learning about the Dharma and studying the Dharma. Now, once we understand the key points on how to practice, once we understand this, then we actually have to bring it into our practice, meditate and practice on it. And so we have these processes of listening, contemplating, and meditating. And so it is really the case, not just in Dharma, but even in worldly activities and worldly life, that we cannot expect to dive into something without first training and learning about it. It's like driving a car. The first step in learning how to drive is studying and learning about the rules of the road and the rules for how to drive the car. Otherwise, if we just get into a vehicle and we've never learned about how to operate that car and we just kind of immediately tried starting to drive, well, we know how that would go. It would be all crazy and dangerous. And the same is true about eating food, or cooking food rather. Like, if we really want to know how to cook a meal, we have to learn. We have to understand how the proper way to cook the meal is. And if we really have a good understanding of that, then when we make food, that food will taste very delicious and will be very nutritious and good for the body. Otherwise, if we really don't know how to cook and we try to cook up something, it's possible that it will taste very bad and may even cause all sorts of physical health problems. So that's another case or example of how we really have to have first an understanding, really learn about how to do something before we embark on it. And so that's true not just in Dharma, but also just in the worldly life. So first we have to understand, we have to have an understanding. Otherwise, if we don't have that real understanding, that foundation of an understanding, then even if we try, we push ourselves, we try really, really hard to do something, well, first of all, it could actually become more dangerous and destructive than beneficial. And secondly, it's possible that all of that effort and struggle will yield very little, if any, result at all that we want. So that's why when it comes to the Dharma, it's also like this. So we want to make sure that we really have an understanding of how to practice. So having an understanding of these crucial elements, these main points when it comes to practice is really crucial, really important.
다 양토바 예나 아야 올리데 예나야 근데 지금 다 제대로 대상을 알아서 그냥 토고야 네바야 또 예나 말아서 이제 내가 더서 때 많지나 진짜 마시라 지 차게 되는데 또 맞아 보면 이바이네 제단 장원은 그 가지 판나야 아니 니마 거바게 룩서 지 근데 그 주다 아니 나주도 도장이 봐세 진난 이제 시에다세 소르지 근데 맞아 포모가 주다 지라 지tin 나주 법양게 없어도 야고 맞아본데 또 나도 지때서 지르기 때에 때에 다리 이제 미니게 지금 맞아 포모이 바이나 법양 본도 사자 가봐가 가서나 문제돼 나도 나주 야고 시선을 때는 냐네서 야고 시로 진짜 니네 다다시바나 인기 나도 지 자체 못인데 이제 이종가 보면서 야고 지금 많지나 게요 맞대 얘나 다다변 담바섬 세연로다 대화진의 제와게 조지어라서 봐 남주인게 제 다다만 소직 장로다 선지당 드니 제들이 베들란도 근데서 다 마시 나 탑차데 바지 드니지 차고요 이때 나서 도전세야 그 참고리샤 소제는 양 나서지 고노르지 그 고노르 가르지는 다 개와 드롭스리 양치 농동이야 다 코르데야너 지금 라린다고 대 첨부지세 로장세야 돼야 고 배용 매반다고 당 게자를 맞지반다고지 진지 소지는 도와 진지 말해 추카가 동는 배용요도 추sam못다는 배용요도 추나베트는 배용요 지관이 말해 배용 되는지 이마인지 아니 배용요 말해 나벌도 나는 소지 추야 돼 나는 소지 진짜다 된 진짜는 맞도 배이메이네야 이제 제가 스만다 대소도 나는 소지 실업 제목 차야 실업 공부를 도야 다 대소 뭐다 배용 산님을 제가 나는 소 아니 이제 로변 제가 추 녀야세요. 아니 다 추르지 배셨다야지 아니 더가나지 추셔야지 어떤 뒤질때 하자는 그 전부 잡아야 돼. 이제는 니네 나는 저 보바기 소준피만 로소지 여러봐. 너던지 여러 뒤로소데 제 나는 저 지금 맞지 그 로소 진짜인가도 나는 저 로소가 주인데 제 체력 망보는 싸움다는 나 추가 소리는 것도 나봐 이제 부그 중에 그것도 되는 게 되는 이제 챈들 따라 양 개발 참아 소미마이나 챈들 따라 장 개발 이마이나 제가 스마는 나는 제 개발 참아 아니 제가 스마는 이제 그 시럽다야 아니 이제 고인제야 시럽해야 어다 진진한 소지 제가 하면서 개는 거기 때문에 근데 뭐 소리는 그것도 되는 게 이제 이메일에 투상해야 돼. 로나의 제벌 말봐. 아니지 로 최종의 제벌이야 말. 참하게 이제 취셔야 취 녀야돼서 다 참하게 이제 몰래. 아니 이제 뭐자 부모의 제벌이야 말이. 지 부모의 제벌이야 말이. 뒤 이제 자화된 뭐자 제벌이야 말이. 나도 참하게 이제 도전해야 돼. 자치 못 해서 거야. 이제 차지.
Also, when we talk about learning and studying the Dharma, it doesn't mean necessarily that you have to go out and do this extensive academic Buddhist studies like in a Shedra kind of environment and so forth. Because there's no guarantee that everyone has the capacity to do that. However, what's most important, what we cannot sort of skip understanding are the crucial points, the main key points of the Dharma that we really have no choice but to learn. For example, like in Tibetan Buddhism, for example, like it used to be the case that only like the monastics that would go into the Shedra and like go into the monastery, that they would be given like the real solid Buddhist education. But like the non-monastic, just like lay people, like the ordinary men and women, they would sort of not kind of feel that they needed to learn or feel that they had kind of the necessity to learn the Dharma. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama is now really making a point to emphasize that for everyone, it's not just for the monks and the nuns, that this learning the Dharma and really studying is something is a responsibility of all the people, whether they are the lay people, men and women, or whether they are the monks. That His Holiness the Dalai Lama is now really encouraging the lay community of, just ordinary lay people, men and women, to really take on the studies and learn more about the Dharma and really study. Because once you understand the Dharma, then your practice can really grow and can really become genuine practice. And that's why there are certain points in Dharma that we cannot sort of avoid learning, that we really must understand. For example, like, even if we don't have very deep, extensive academic knowledge of Buddhism, but at least we understand, for example, what are the three purities, and for example, like what are the four causes to be reborn in Dewa Chen, the pure land of Sukhavati, for example, and understanding like refuge and bodhicitta, and like what is right and wrong, like what virtuous actions, what constitutes the virtue that we need to practice, what constitutes negative karma that we need to abandon. These kind of things we really need to have an understanding. There's no way that we can practice Dharma without learning about these points. So that's why we really must study this. And then secondly, there's also another kind of misunderstanding that some people have, and that is that some people think that like it's all about the ritual and like the actual practice of like the rituals and the rules for that. And then they kind of overlook or ignore the importance of having an understanding in theory and in the actual meaning of the practice. And so actually then maybe they don't even have like the basic really understanding of virtue, but then they're doing all the pujas and all this. So that's why it's really important that we understand that whether you're reciting the Dharma practices with your mouth or thinking about the practice or listening to the teachings where you hear the Dharma with your ear, all of this is beneficial. The Dharma is beneficial, however it is coming across. However, listening to the Dharma is something that is beneficial beyond just this life. For example, when you listen to the teachings, that actually, even if you don't understand the full meaning of what you are listening to in this life, that's planting seeds for the future life, so that your wisdom and your knowledge will continue to grow, not just in this life, but in also the future lives as well. Your wisdom will continue to increase. And that's the benefit of listening to the Dharma. And so the benefits of listening to Dharma, hearing the Dharma, are beyond conception. They're inconceivable, actually, immeasurable. And so when listening to Dharma teachings, reading the Dharma text, the Dharma books, but especially like listening to teachings, is something that, first of all, in this life, even if we don't have the full understanding, it will continue into the future life. And secondly, for like the Tibetan Buddhism and Dharma practices, for example, it is not something that even in one lifetime we could ever fully learn every aspect of the teachings. This is something that many, many lifetimes continue, is a process of learning and study. And so when it comes to like the Tibetan Buddhist practices and Tibetan Buddhist teachings, it's something that not just in this life, it's something that will continue to benefit us, to cause our wisdom to increase in future lives as well. And so that's why this is something that if we understand this, then we will not overlook the importance of continuing to learn and study. And when it comes to the study of Dharma, it makes no difference what age you are, and there's no difference as far as old or young. Anyone can learn Dharma. Anyone can enter into the teachings and listen to the teachings and know and learn the Dharma. And the same is true about male or female. There's no difference, man or woman. There's no difference whether you are a monk or a lay person, whether you are ordained or just a lay practitioner. When it comes to the listening to the teachings and learning the Dharma, this is something that everyone can do.
나는 저 죄를 싫어게 더봐야 있나? 근데 뒤 죄를 대봐야 있는데 아니 인제 용거래. 아니 산적의 선제거래. 아니 동리가 따와 곰 냠니도 소야. 아니 야구 용거래 다 싫어서야 돼. 주탄지가 자원라고 제를 다 싫어 용한테 나는 저 죄 라지를 쏘다 마 싫어 토용한테 갈래 가고 있는데 다 저당지 다 생각 못도 요게가 제리. 얘는 그 체시대 나한테 내 준비할 때는 로고가 있는데 싫어져야 소소지 성부터 법량세는 소소지 다 싫어돼야 유래 제어는 싫어도 공부동에 어떤 일이 있어요.
And actually, if we really cultivate this wisdom, this prajna, then from wisdom can be awakened all the other noble spiritual qualities like faith and compassion, bodhicitta, and even the view of emptiness. Meditation, practice of emptiness can grow, and all of this comes from increasing our wisdom and our knowledge. Actually, wisdom is the root of all dharma, and so that's why if we want to gain wisdom, it's not something that we just pray to some deity to grant us siddhis of wisdom. That being said, of course, deities have blessings and they have the siddhis and attainment. But the real way that we will gain wisdom in our minds is through cultivation of that wisdom for ourselves, through studying and contemplating and reflecting and practicing. And so that's how we will cause our wisdom to grow. Oh, sorry. And so that's why, because generally speaking, everything goes by karma, the law of cause and effect. So if we engage in the causes of increasing our wisdom, such as reflecting on the teachings and listening, that will cause our wisdom to grow.
Devachin Jevaki, Malanja, Tati Malanga, Devachin Jevaki, Joshia, Tamashi, didn't there was a gunner, take on to Devachin Jevaki, tap, put up, did this song Shabaji, Tidi, but it's the Musina.
So now for the actual main practice or main teaching itself. It is on the prayer of aspiration to be reborn in the Pure Land of Dewachen or Sukhavati. It's known as the Dewachen aspiration prayer or the Sukhavati aspiration prayer. And basically this is an aspiration, it is a prayer. And within this prayer, I will be going through what are known as the 4 causes for taking rebirth in the Pure Land of Dewachen. And so we'll be going through the prayer of aspiration, and it talks about the methods or the way to cause ourselves to be reborn in the Pure Land of Dewachen. So all of you can look at your text, and we will be reading through the text and explaining as we go. So this is the prayer of aspiration that was written by the great master, the accomplished master, Karma Chakme, and it is widely known as the Chakme Daman in Tibetan, which basically just means Karma Chakme aspiration prayer to be reborn in Dewachen.
Page 397.
So generally, this prayer of aspiration that was written by Karma Chakme, it is said that when he was writing it, that he really underwent quite a great deal of discomfort and physical pain. Like, for example, his hand was really hurting as he was writing this down, but he forced himself. It is that he really pushed himself and really, really tried to keep going, even though his hand was aching as he wrote these words. And the reason is because this is how important this prayer of aspiration is for sentient beings. And so actually, this is something that's so important for our regular practice that thinking of wanting to benefit so many sentient beings, Karma Chakme, who was already quite advanced in age, was already quite elderly at the time that he composed this, And as he was writing it, he said that it was really, really painful for his hand. And even so, he just kept going. He just pushed himself because he was trying to show us how crucial and how precious and important this prayer is. And so that's why it is said that for this prayer, if we can do this prayer, if we can inspire other people to do this prayer for the virtue of being reborn in Dewachen, and we can explain the meaning of the words to others, all of this is of tremendous benefit, it is said. Because even Karmakami has sort of sacrificed the comfort and really pushed himself and his own body to finish writing this prayer.
Dala nabu penyumi sumari tate dogi nana ode tate nana dewaji na jiwa ki jo yate ma song yoba imbari di jo yate nyamsa lama imba yena ata ngana su ji dewaji na jeta ba imba yendu ani ji chu dogi nana tate demu digi yeni ji ta penyu chewa yamari sumari.
So it is said that there is nothing more beneficial than this. And why? It is because in this very prayer are contained the 4 causes to be reborn in Dewachen, the Pure Land of Sukhavati. And so if we practice these 4 causes, we will be able to be reborn there in the Pure Land of Dewachen. And that's why in the Buddha's sutras, it actually says that there is no practice more beneficial than this prayer of aspiration to be born in Dewachen. Actually, all dharma is equally beneficial. We cannot say one dharma is more beneficial than another, but the reason why it is said that this is such great benefit is because this prayer of aspiration to be born in Dewachen, if you practice it, anybody can practice it, and anybody who practices it and who practices the 4 causes to be reborn in Dewachen will be able to be reborn in Dewachen. That's why it is of so much benefit.
Then that Naranzoji did demonte, Devachi in the Java, Jojo gone, demonte Nyasala in Bayena. And then to shoot to know. And it be drug lao. Then it that Gajun, Jitin and Lona, Gajun the Chapel Meba. Tin and Jitata, Jabzon the Majaka Chapel Meba. And it Jita. Jachimboki, Lobjang, Shiung, you meet the cheaper member. Kansa, sweet young to Lama in Bayana, and it led now. And it did less no woman, then now from Croy Turner, Devachi in the Jetawaki, Tinjiki, Nichi, Sarchudi in Mayandu, that they put Masibaki, then Lavaki, Dolana Damaya Maris, that did it. Damas is Juman, Yinki. So come to you can never judge him what you doctor about the Tinity. Soon you don't get two geese, Sabdan, Payung, the Damas, two Samala, that is Sabori, Payung, Jimbori. The Yenatan, Nanzo, the Muyuka, Kaila, you could Tindy, La, the late Tabadan. And it did Lali Deltina, then it judge him with your doctor, the Tindy, Tindy, the Demon, the Yamsala in Bayana, and it's Sala, Payung Cheva. And then it's Tinjiki, it's Tati, Nanzo in Kowa, the Devajin, the Devajin, the Devajin, Lamjet Lama, the Sunyan Lama, the Nanzo, the Sir Kowa, the Selmadova, the Sanjay Kumato Toyoki, Dama in Bain, it is Dama, Delabaka Dama, Yomari, continue somebody.
And Gamatame Rinpoche said, I have no more profound direct oral instructions beyond this. Nothing more profound than this. So here the word is Dhamma or Upadesha, like heart instructions. Generally, when we talk about heart instructions or oral instructions, they're referred to as such because they are very simple, but they give us the most profound and the most vast way where we can accomplish something so profound and vast, but in a very easy way to practice method, a very simple way. And so that's why, because they are so profound and yet so easy to understand, so simple, that is the nature of the oral instructions or profound oral instructions, Upadesha. And so why this prayer of aspiration to be reborn in Dewa Chen is said to be like the most profound direct oral instruction is because within this prayer that contains the 4 causes to be reborn in Dewa Chen, that if we practice this, then in a very short span of time, we can accomplish. And also it is easy to practice, easy to accomplish, and it doesn't matter if we are monks or nuns or if we are lay people. So what the vessel that we are in is not determining, is not limiting. If we practice this, anyone can practice this. And also it does not require an extensive knowledge of Dharma and an extensive kind of academic background in Dharma. But anybody who really practices this can very easily accomplish the results, which is through this practice of the prayer of aspiration of Dewa Chen and the 4 causes becoming free from samsara. We can gain rebirth in the pure land of Dewa Chen, Sukhavati. And so thinking about that, it's something so incredibly amazing and profound that there really is no oral instruction that is more profound than this. Why? Because we don't have to engage in too much hardship. It's like with very little effort, we can accomplish this tremendous result. And so that's why, like, generally speaking, we talk about Dharma, like, all Dharma is profound and all instructions are of great benefit. But they all bring us tremendous benefit. But when it comes down to it, when it comes down to practically speaking, this is something that we can actually digest, that this practice we can actually put into practice easily, and we can accomplish the profound results. And this is something that is easy to do and brings tremendous benefit. And that is why it is said to be the most profound practice, because it can yield us becoming completely free from samsara and being reborn in the pure land of Dewa Chen. And once we are reborn there in Dewa Chen, then we can gradually progress through the stages of the path, and we will never fall back again into samsara, and we will attain the state of Buddhahood. So that is why it is said that there is no oral instruction more profound than this.
Then Dolo Imbasser, then they won long last over Matobi Medina, and don't you days to the summer.
Oh, Gonda, I muted myself, sorry.
They might do the song channel.
And so it is said here, Gamatame Rinpoche says, this is the root of my Dharma. This is the root of my Dharma practice. And you should really just not leave it on its own, don't let it go. Really practice it. Really take this into your practice, because this is like the essence of the practice. And so that's what Gamatame Rinpoche says, is encouraging us to practice. And he also says, even if you don't receive the transmission, then you can still practice it. So you can practice this without an oral transmission, without empowerment. And so now, now comes the actual prayer itself, and in it are included all the 4 causes to be reborn in Dewa Chen.
소신 대화진 신경 거보다 살래 근데 전이바데 저 초사 드비앙스는 예나 덤바고는 아니 초사 드비앙스 봐 근데 저 som바데 또 산주 심지 신나는 저 산주 선 거냐 근데 아니 저 제바데 진만나 넘버 타고 신다 대화진 제와 주지 but didn't do what we're gonna demonte
and so the first of the four causes to be reborn in Doachen is the visualization of the sources of refuge and the refuge field in front, as it is called. And so this is where we visualize, we have a visual picture right there of the Pure Land of Doachen and all within. And then the second of the four causes is known as gathering the accumulations and purifying obscurations. So this is encompassed in the 7-branch prayer that we see here in this prayer. The third cause for rebirth in Doachen is known as the support being giving rise to bodhicitta mind, bodhicitta commitment, so we give rise to bodhicitta. And the fourth cause is known as the supportive conditions, and that is with the and then that is the pure so then the fourth is the supportive conditions known as the pure aspiration prayer itself. So the first cause is the support, which is the visualizing the pure land.
Then tambo emaho sumarita emaho sayade the jagake te chorpo ke the joyo mai mai na ani mo charwa sitinje ta ganga mo charwa risena ta sanje oba mi the tukji dang then sanje oba mi ki ni ji shakham dewaji mo charwa ta garisena sanje oba mi the garisin mo charwa risena ta sanje oba mi the tukji la ta sanje oba mi the sowata 대화진 제와게 조직 거네 대화진이나 말한다고 이마이나 근데 대화진은 제토바데 산지어바 미가 투지다 말라이 버리 대롱만 잡아야 봐 근데 다 대화진은 가르쳐 못 차야 되시나 다 오는 용원단지 상한 넘버다 봐 아니 대화진은 여바도 아니 참아 아니 제다 다다네 산주 선반나 파고기 산지에다 아니 제 파고 강사 누주니가 아니지 number tabo ki shakam chepon pobo imba indu tene ane chi dewaji ngi shenki penyong da mansar da tene sanje waba mi ka tuji wata taso ngo chaya des wata ne indu tambo ima hos tene somare.
So the prayer begins with the exclamation Emaho. And Emaho is an expression of wonderment and amazement. In Tibetan, it would be translated like Ngom Tarwa. It means amazing, how incredible. And so what is it that is so amazing? Well, what is amazing, what is so awesome and amazing is the quality of the compassionate motivation of Buddha Amitabha. And the Pure Land itself, Buddha Amitabha's Pure Land of Dewachen, how amazing these are. And what is it that makes this so amazing? Well, first of all, what is amazing about Buddha Amitabha is that out of his compassion, his bodhicitta commitment, if we so much as pray to Buddha Amitabha, and we have these four causes intact, and we pray to be reborn in the Pure Land of Dewachen, we are able, by the power of Buddha's prayers and aspirations, and by the power of Buddha Amitabha's commitment, then we are able to actually be reborn there in this Pure Land of Dewachen. And so that is something so amazing. And also the Pure Land itself is amazing. Dewachen is also amazing. What makes it so incredible and amazing is, first of all, that the Pure Land is just that, a completely pure Buddha field, and all who are born there are the realized bodhisattvas. So everything, the actual Pure Land itself and all the beings within are completely pure. So that's something so amazing. And so then the benefits of praying to be reborn in Dewachen, the qualities of the Pure Land of Dewachen, and the incredible quality of the compassionate motivation and commitment of Lord Buddha Amitabha. These are all something so amazing. Hence the exclamation, "Ei Maho," how amazing.
Then the Tamungan the Devating Shanghai, Gomro, Sanders, the Yedas, the Gom, the Devating the Shanghai, Ganga Yoris, and then Yaman, not just Sorana, somebody. The answer to Minjin Dinky, Shanghai, they not just Sala, and Devating the Shanghai Yoris. Then it does such a ton of Tondo Kayoris in 아니 자민직이 뭐 바로나 somebody다 다른 아주 직직인 데레 and tuy나 아니 제다 근데 대화진 신한데 아주 지양 지 사자 레벨로 째요 말이 되게 이제 장매고 바로 되나 되는 아주 직직인 그 칸데레 중세 양파 대박이 뒤 사자 되나 높지 소로 아니 진데 지나 이제 바 장매고기 되게 사자 되네 나눠서 직딩 그 대대 중세 양파데 막 어떻더나 내가 지금 시작한데 요리스.
And so if we were to ask, so where exactly is this Pure Land of Dewa Chen, like in relation to where we are now in this world? And so the first line reads that in the western direction from here, countless world systems away from this world known as the Mijie Jiten, or this long enduring world that we are in. So many countless world systems away, and a little like higher up as far as like the level, then there's this Pure Land of Dewa Chen. So as it is expressed in the text, so it is like west of here, like if we were coming from the vantage point of this earth, this world, then in the western direction, and also like many countless world systems beyond, and then also a little bit higher up as far as like the level, as far as like where it is in relation to us, like it's in a higher level up in space. So that would be like sort of a description somewhat of the location of the Pure Land of Dewa Chen.
number double Shanghai Dewa Chen somebody that Shanghai Dela 아니 이제 다다 마다 생각 제적 거니 건데 아니 이제 생각이 얘는 아니 이제 넘버 타고 내봐요. 그러나 나는서 이제 내 직딩 이제 감대 산지 체크도 그 생각 임바를 다 얘는 내 들자 타고 그 뭐라 이 생각도 넘버 타고 하는 자기 나는 마다 그 뭐라 다 직딩이 감대네요. 지 담아게 이제 사도당 저도당 아니 이제 되는 게다 저당 정체를 가서 봐. 근데 마다바게 근데 근자블은 요래. 근데 다나지 그 남주는 내가 그 신기 이바이나야. 다지 도와줘도 소바 마다바게 신기야 요래. 다와 그 산지야 요바이 봐. 근데 이제 생각은 다 마다만 보이게 돼. 근데 얘는야. 내와지 그 생각한테 아니 노 넘버 타봐. 다지 생각이 지금 내와지 그 생각한테 지금 마다바 그 사도당 저다당 나도 그 마다바가 뭐 잼매가 아니지 타마 생각 넘버 타버리데 이 생각 대를 줘버기 아니 나주 그 심지에 바이나야 근데 산지어 봐미 퍼버지네스 클라스 오버기 아니지 산지에다 산지 숨바 아니 이제 퍼버겐데 아니 이제 다주 말아서 봐 근데 그 퍼버 가자 마다바기 마다바기 심지에 근데 대화지기 생각한테 생각 이인래 아니 이제 제발 퍼버 이제 너주니 넘버 타버 뭐다 된지 차도 요래서
and so then it describes this Pure Land as the completely, utterly pure Buddha field. So actually, when we talk about like fields of manifestation or Buddha fields, there are known as pure and impure fields of manifestation. So not all like Shinkom, that is, or fields of manifestation or pure lands, not all of them are actually like perceived purely. In other words, this very earth is known as the Pure Land of Buddha Shakyamuni. And for those students, those disciples who have pure karma, they can actually see this as really the Pure Land. It's a pure Buddha field. It's Shakyamuni's Buddha field. But for those of us who have impure karma, we actually see this as a mundane, ordinary world with like ordinary elements of earth and rocks and mountains and cliffs and cities and towns and so forth. We see this world, this earth, and its impure manifestation. So, and that's also true of the sentient beings who populate this earth. For example, we have the beings like the beings in the six realms, and then we have the pure beings like the Buddhas, awakened ones, and so forth. So you have this variation in terms of pure and impure appearance. But the Pure Land of Dewachen, there is nothing impure, nothing at all that can be perceived as impure. So, for example, whereas in this Pure Land or this field of manifestation, due to our impure karma, we see ordinary mountains and towns and rocks and trees and so forth. In the Pure Land of Dewachen, it is really the case that there is nothing and no one who is impure. For example, like there is no ordinary rocks and ordinary stones and ordinary earth anywhere to be found. Not a single thing that is impure or ordinary can be found in the Pure Land of Dewachen. And the same is true of the beings within Dewachen. There are no ordinary sentient beings there. There is the Buddhas, Buddha Amitabha, and the great Bodhisattvas like illustrious Chenrezig, Avalokiteshvara, and so forth. And there are like the Arhats, the realized Arhats, and the Bhikshus, the great Sangha of the Arhats and the realized monks and the realized beings. And so you don't have anything or anyone who is impure in Pure Land of Dewachen, and that is why it is known as the utterly and perfectly pure Buddha field.
Gardena soba ke shankam gar yimai na shankam de le jin ya tene ani je ta lodang je che zo on de la yang nang zo ji ma ani je ko de je wa ne go ya ani tin je ke shankam mong bo ye ba ta de wa ji ne je wa ye ba ye na nang zo je ya sang ma je ke ba de la de ko de je go ye ma ta do de ne je sang je tene ani je de ne ta chen je ke dong na je de ne ke ma manlang ke to ke jewa jin ma to ba ke ji te khwa de jadang ke jewa ma le go ya ma de de dewa ji shin ka de cheba ba wa ba de.
So in other what we call like heavenly realms, for example like Tushita heaven, known as Ganden in Tibetan, and these kind of realms we call them like the pure heavenly realms. But in some of these you may be reborn there, but when your lifespan is up in these realms, then again you have to take rebirth back into samsara, into the other realms in samsara. But this Pure Land of Dewachen is not like that. Once we are born there, we never have to fall back in samsara again. And until we become Buddhas, we can remain there in Dewachen. And when it says we never have to take another body in samsara, that means without our own willingness. In other words, by the power of our aspirations and our compassion for sentient beings, we may be able to willingly take birth in samsara in order to benefit beings, but we will never have to go into samsara against our will, like helplessly taking rebirth in samsara. So that's the quality of the Pure Land of Dewachen.
Jem chen yin chen chen ne chu sa mu jo ne demo drop song de song yu da kon ko che tu la ne ta garden la ya je wa ki chi da ne de de sam de to da ma yin song de ne jo ne kon ge de ka le ji de ne to byang de nyam ni nam de ta garden ne je ne ya ne je la kro wa le je go kro wa le je wa yin ne je ga na je ko do ma de yang de nyong de ti do ma le 지금은 지금 동안에 이제 님종계는 근데 거기 꽃에 매대라 상무도 봐야는 근데 데모도 저거에 숨어야 데모냐는 나와야 돼 가르스는 대화지는 제도에 있는 나나는 좀 그러 지금은 지금 동안 용 먹어 대대 타워에 말이지
What Chalmers Rinpoche said was, in the earlier part of my life, I was focused on the prayer to be reborn in the Tushita heaven Pure Land. In the later half of my life, I realized that I was going to focus on the prayer of aspiration to be reborn in Dewachen. The reason for this is Gamatami Rinpoche was explaining that in the earlier part of his life, he thought it was enough simply to pray and aspire to be reborn into Shika heaven. But then he studied more and learned more the Dharma and realized that even if he were to be reborn, even if we